Hi, my name is Eyez. I'm originally from Philly, but Florida is like a second home to me. I'm 31 years old, and welcome to my spot. I grew up on a small street, small street, but kind of big world. Bethlehem Pike, and that's where I grew up most of my childhood days. Different times, different places, different events, and some of the music that I've been introduced to, such as punk rock music, such as whether it be heavy metal, whether it be alternative, rap, hip hop, really introduced me to a lot of different sounds, and has brought an eclectic vibe to myself. As far as myself, I'm very eclectic, experimental. Now, growing up in Philly, a lot of these songs pertain to me because there was life experience that I had went through that were not always good, you know. Growing up with an abusive alcoholic can change your perception on things, but not to hate the person, but to understand that we're human sometimes and we become susceptible to certain things, but we always have the area of change, and that is also why in my own music the Fool represents also change, understanding that change is the only constant. So as I grew up in Philly, I gained an attachment and a love to many different artists, ranges, fields, and people say sometimes, well, where do you get your inspiration from? A lot, you know, there's a lot of inspiration out there that is very inspiring, aspiring to be, because it creates an area of creation, and in creation itself can either be destructive or it can be very ethereal, very opening, not feeling like a door is closed but you're bringing the skeleton out of the closet. For example, music is therapy, and it's important to know that, and to know that the both sides can exist, but they can also coexist. But Philly was good times and bad times, but at the same time it's all relative, because at the same time I feel that life is like a wave, you know. You will have your ups and downs, and sometimes you might have flat waters, but it's always good to know that to be consistent throughout your life and to push for something more than what you thought was possible in your own life can bring about a sort of self-actualization and self-realization about oneself, not about everybody else's, because as we are the main characters of our own story, we're also guest stars in each other's lives. So it really brought me to deeper understandings of what I truly care about and what I truly love, and where is my energy also being reciprocated. Sometimes there's an expression that says, go where you're loved, not where you're tolerated. But I think sometimes with change and growth, you must put yourself in areas of uncomfortability, because sometimes it doesn't always mean that you can, you know, life doesn't, you know, if the world was fixed, the world would have no meaning at all. So sometimes when you're in a situation, you may not know what it's like, but you're in it. At that point, you have to understand that it's, you know, it's you. It's not everyone else. So Philly was great, and when I was in about 6th grade, that's when I came to Florida. Florida has been a great space for just really getting I guess an expression would be cultured, or understanding other people, not just my own. and where backgrounds, why are people this way? Because you have to be in an area of openness and awareness to understanding of other people's cultures and how they live, and which ways do they live in, because everybody is different. There is power to the individual, and to love yourself is to love others. So when I'm looking at a lot of people, even today, I don't wish to come from an area of judgment, and I don't act upon that either. My patterns will show that I am here to resonate a sound and a frequency, because I'm kind of a particle. But I do appreciate the different vibrations and different frequencies that people are at. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed, it is only transferable. And as I said before, destruction is a form of creation. So sometimes even, people can create a set, and in that set they can break a TV, they can break something, and even such a simple therapy as drums. When you bang on the drums, that's a release. Some people who actually are drummers have aggression, and that is a form of therapy, and it's a way of release. So I do appreciate, a lot of the aspects that Florida brought into my life, because I got to experience other people's lives and the way that they've lived, and it opened me up to an area and a new level of understanding and overstanding. And it's really been a beautiful journey through it all. I have put a lot of hard work into this. During my times in Philly, I did have choir classes, and I've done about 7 years. As far as my writing, typing I should say, I've been doing that for, I want to say, maybe like an overall of maybe 8 years. Going back and forth. And I find some of the best times when I'm writing is when it is silent and my thoughts can slow down and I don't always have to rapidly pick it up. So Florida, again, I appreciate a lot about it because of its diverse culture. There is this sort of inclusiveness, not exclusiveness with it. And as myself, being a part of, again, we are the main characters of our own story, but we're guest stars in each other's lives. So even being a part of many different artists, producers, engineers, photographers, videographers, there are so many great talents. Shouts out to drums. Shouts out to, there's so many, oh my gosh. What drives my passion for music is sometimes, I guess there are two ways that you could look at an artist, but there are many different ways. But there's two specific ways. Sometimes you may have a person who may be angry, but he writes beautiful art. And sometimes you might have a person that's loving and writes angry art. So sometimes when a person is struggling on the inside and they're going through something that is very like an existential crisis, or just a very serious point of reflection, because diamonds don't shine, they reflect. So when you're going through that area of reflection and you're looking back on yourself, and that past self no longer exists, the past and the present, the past and the future are no longer here. One has not yet arrived and the other has already happened, and it's no longer here. So all we ever really have is the present moment. And it's good to appreciate the moments that you are living in, and find an area of gratefulness. And part of that is what drives my passion, is I get to express some of the experiences of my own life Like, there's an expression in reggae, they say, reggae is a life beat. You must live to the beat of your life. And that's how I feel sometimes, you know, like, and not portraying something that is perfect, because I don't think that anybody is. I think we all have our own imperfections that make us who we are. And within those faults, you know, or failings, falling, that's an art form. You know, as a skater myself, I've fallen many times, but I get back up. There is a point of saying that we get to be something more. You know, it's a get to, it's not a have to. If you can actually do what you love and love what you do, there comes a strong understanding in that, and not being too overzealous in your head, or getting your head to a point where you may think that you're the most. Because sometimes the way that I like to center myself is realizing that there is something that is greater than myself. I don't believe I could have created all of this. It was here before I was, and I appreciate it for what it is. And again, coexisting with life in itself, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, because it's growth. It's a lot of growth. You can't, you know, it's like in skateboarding, for example. When you're on a 23-foot roll-in and you're gonna go down and you've never done it before in your life, you're gonna have fear. But in skateboarding, you can't have fear. It's a place where you cannot have fear. You must overcome that fear. So when you're reaching even into new heights, and myself personally, the passion in my music that drives me was a lot of my own failures in life. You know, I've been plant-based for about 5 years, and, you know, I may have not had a lot of money during those times. Because, you know, I'm funding my career. You know, I could be doing 40 hours a week at work at my day job, and then I do 60 hours of work a week on my music, and it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. But at the same time, sometimes when you're really striving for something that you want, you have to do the things that not everybody else wants to do. And so even during those times where I didn't always have all the currency in the world or all the money, and sometimes I still don't, it pushed me to realize that that wasn't always the answer. Money is a tool, and it cannot provide for certain things like love. It can't buy certain things, and can't buy happiness, you know? So I appreciated, again, what drives me into my own music, into my own passions, is through the failures and realizing what they were. I've heard people say sometimes to me, you're such a good person, you know, this, that, and the other. I said the only reason why I am a good person is because I was able to admit to the areas of where I was wrong and where I fell. There comes a level of accountability. There comes a level of, in order to develop character, you have to be what you say you are. And sometimes, again, some people are for the clout and some people are for the culture. There's a difference. And knowing that difference and seeing that difference. Because, again, it's not money that is the root of all evil, it's the love for money that's the root of all evil. So, as far as myself, I've always lived very minimalistic. I always had everything, you know, but I was grateful for what I had. And I appreciated the things I was able to get through my own hard works, because, again, even Particles, please check it out. You like, comment, subscribe. It is one of my recent releases, one of my first official releases, and I looked forward to that for so long, because it's been I really started taking my music career very seriously in 2020. And it's taken about that time, about 5 years, but it took me about 1.5 years to write Particles. I went a lot back and forth. It was something I really appreciated because it was a song I felt that could relate to everyone, possibly, but not always. But in itself, what it shapes is something more than even I can imagine. So, and it was also within that song touching up into the realm of imagination and not always logic. So I did appreciate, again, taking a lot of hard work to get to where I am today. And again, I was not handed everything. I have been working consistently with the people I have been working with, and really pushing to strive to become something more, because I'm always learning. I'm always learning. There's always something new that I don't know, and there's always something else that, or some other person that may know something more of than you do, that you possibly didn't know. So be open to the area of opening up and not having to close, you know? But that is just my own perception. I do want to, I do want to give a big shout out to drums. I do want to give a big shout out to Dave Proch, Proch. I want to give a big shout out to Oasis Imagery and Film, and Miguel Angelito, who does some of my designs. But yes, Particles is a lot of things. One of the things that I have also said previously on another interview, shouts out to the lab, I talked about how basically in science class they teach you that everything is 99.99% empty space. On the spectrum of life, you barely exist. So in essence, it's taking something, looking at how small you actually are in comparison to a world that is so big. So there is an expression, and it's another thing that I've implemented within my music. And if you've seen the music video, The Fool, there's an expression that goes, the amount of fools are infinite. It pertained to me a lot because it made me realize, like, I don't know everything. And if I were to ask somebody a question, I said, do you know it all? And I don't think that they can give a solid yes. They could say yes, but I don't believe that would be true. Because there's so much in this world, and it's very vast, and it's infinite, you know? It's kind of cool. It's really beautiful because it makes you open up to the realm of possibilities, and possibly seeing those possibilities, and realizing that sometimes even paths within life, they can be interchangeable. And Particles, there are a couple lines in that song where it was like, I grew up by myself, I won't hide, I won't shelter it. Sometimes, like, when you're saying an expression, the expression might have a double meaning. Well, that meaning behind that didn't actually mean I grew up by myself. It means sometimes when you grow up in life and you don't always have your mother or your father around you, your own true abilities are put to the test. And you're faced up against something that you didn't know, and now you have to be able to overcome that. Or even just to understand it and to see it. And to be able to, whatever the case may be, whatever the circumstance is. And going deeper into some of the things that I also appreciate about that music video as well is I added one of Jan Mateko's paintings, which it's also known as the Sad Clown Paradox. I really appreciated the photo, excuse me, I really appreciated the painting because it has a very dark and ominous feel, but at the same time, it's a paradox. You know, when we're looking at something and we think this is one way or this way, almost like a crossroads, you have to go left or right. Sometimes, again, that left and right comes back together and joins, you know? So it's kind of like when you jump out of one cycle, you'll eventually hop into another cycle, and the cycle continues. So for me, Particles as well was something about opening up to realizing a lot of my own sadness and where my sadness stemmed from, where my sufferings came from. You know, in 2020 I had lost a lot. I had lost a relationship with a woman for 9 years. I had also gone through bankruptcy. I also had to get 2 shots in my neck for PTSD. Because of some of the experiences that I went through, and I really genuinely hit a rock bottom. I also caught COVID. My temperature almost hit 103 degrees and I almost blacked out. And I'm still here today. I'm still living. And there was a lot during that time where it was an area of healing for me, and I took the time to really work on that and not just go out every night and party and do this and being involved with this. I had to slow down. Life told me I had to slow down, and I got to the position where I didn't have it all, so I couldn't do it all. And I was very weak as well at that point because I was also switching lifestyles. Now that I live very plant-based, I've been taking care of my health. Health is wealth. Very much so. But a lot of the depression that I did go through opened me up to new areas of possibilities of healing and growth. And it was tough. It was genuinely tough because, like I had said previously, Particles did take me about 1.5 years to write. Some of that time during 2020, it was a very hard time for a lot of people, not just only myself, but for a lot of people. And one of the things that happened during that time in 2020 was a lot of just, again, existential crisis, going deeper into emotion, finding out what these emotions are and why are they coming to me and why am I feeling them. Betrayal, well, betrayal, trauma, but also not even just betrayal, but broken, you know, breaking down, not always built up. You know, it takes a while to build a foundation, to restructure something after your life has been taken apart, because it's very easy to destroy something, but it's a lot harder to put the pieces back together. And hands can be meant to be built, you know, destroy or built. So I decided to create. And what I created out of that was something was a reflection of myself that maybe others can resonate with. There's a strong saying that also does come from the Bible, which is, "For so he is the man to have gained the world, but to have lost his soul." So I respectfully would love for the people who do genuinely appreciate my music who can resonate with it, great. And for the people who don't, that's okay. But I really do work on what I love. And I do love this. And I don't think I would have gotten into music because if I only solely cared about the money. I did it because I loved it. Well, as far as my part, in the way I've been active in my own community, society, soul tribe, culture, is I wanted to bring something that may seem dark but also is an area of growth. I want to be, as far as myself, how have I already contributed to society? Well, I was a part of mainly, most of my life, family-owned businesses. I supported a lot of family-owned businesses. I used to work for this place called I Dream of Gelato. I've worked for a family-owned vegan restaurant, vegan Jamaican restaurant, and I've learned a lot in the hospitality business. So within that, it's led me to care and provide as much in ways that are not always monetary. You know, if I serve you a good dish, I want to make sure it's a good dish. If I'm serving you up food, I don't wish to serve you something bad, because sometimes that is a reflection of my own self. And no matter what, even if I had a disagreement or I didn't personally like you, it doesn't matter. I'm still gonna cook you a great meal, because you will never take away the art of cooking and the love I have for it. Some things you can't take away from a person because it already exists within them. A higher power has given that to you already. So even sometimes they say like a natural gift, or for example, let's go deeper into my roots. My father was a fiddler player. Now, I don't know much of my father anymore, but he was a fiddler player, and he used to be part of a band called the Downtown Possums. And they did country. They did many different forms. And my father's father was the concierge master of the New York Philharmonic. He was the conductor. So even with that, I realized music is in my blood. It flows through my veins. And sometimes, however, talent is nothing without hard work. So I have, again, kept my shoulder to the grindstone, in a sense. And I've been working very, very hard to get to where I want to be. But again, no man is an island. I'm not by myself. I've had others who have supported me and helped me. And I'm very grateful for those people, because they have genuinely looked out for me. Because even in my own position, the fact that and again, finding where I'm grateful again, the fact that I have a roof over my head, I think I'm more rich than 80% of the people on this earth. But realizing still that struggle exists, but it's not meant to be there forever. And in some areas, that's when the fool goes away, and it leads into there's a saying, and the saying goes, a fool is truly a fool because he may know that sometimes he may be wise, and a wise man is truly wise because he knows sometimes he may be a fool. So when I was able to comprehend that, I realized that I do also appreciate good conversation, things that make me think, not always make somebody else contemplate. So, and I think, again, what do I have to offer? I have vocals. I did also graduate from Scratch DJ Academy. Shouts out to DJ Immortal. And I got my alumni. But but yeah, and I did go down to Miami for a year, and I worked with some great people there too. Man, a lot of great people. Shouts out to shouts out to Some Jerk, my production teacher. And shouts out to DJ Knockers, who taught me some wikis. And then obviously shouts out to DJ Immortal for teaching me mixing. I still have some of it, but I would think I would have to get a little bit back in touch to go back to the fundamentals a little bit to retrain my roots. But yeah, because there was a point in time where I actually had to sell my controller because I was kind of in between a rock and a hard place, and I had to sell it to make some money so that I could afford, again, my music career. But my grandfather used to tell me all the time, he used to tell me, why don't you join a band, you have such a beautiful voice. And I never really listened. I always just kind of lived a little bit aloof in my life, and there were things that made me in the way that I was, but also changed me and made me realize what more that I could be. So, and now that I look at it now, it's really great that I decided to even pursue. Because sometimes people pick something up and they'll put it down. But if you're really, and you really appreciate it, you'll hold on to it sometimes. But that's why, at least for myself, I appreciate this saying, which goes, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but still better than a master of one. So I still have, again, Renaissance man. I have worked in many different areas. I've done dance. I actually took hip-hop classes. I also skateboard, I snowboard, I surf. I've ridden on aggressive inlines. What I would like to accomplish, as far as I'm here, is harmony. A lot of harmony. Because I think there's an area of abundance to be looked at and to see. Even though I am no eyes, but and to being within the conscious realm, and not to be within the collective consciousness, and not always the collective unconsciousness. So, but I do see both. However, before I leave, I would like to, in general, in life, I would like to create areas of stability. I didn't do music entirely for myself. I have also others that I genuinely care about, that I want to see live prosperous, and not always be in a survival state, but in a thriving state. Because it's not always about me. It never was. Again, previously, like I said, we made the main characters of our own story, but we are also guest stars in each other's lives. So, harmony is something I wish to create in my lifetime. For people who are dealing with depression, for people who are dealing with addiction, I have myself, I lost one of my best friends from childhood due to heroin overdose. And I also have lost my uncle as well. With them pretty recent. And sometimes people in general, they'll throw you a lifesaver, but they're not going to drown with you. And it is a choice sometimes to walk down a path, because the age of experimentation can also be the age of addiction. There are two sides to every coin. And as we look at both sides, how do we come back to center? We must realize the sides of ourselves that we don't like, the shadow, in order to grow from that. And it's not always easy. It never was. Even after everything I went through. You know, and not always. And sometimes I had to be on staple diets. You know, I only ate rice and beans. Or I didn't eat, you know, full wholehearted meals all the time. So, even when you're in that state, the surviving state, when you're in that and you're going through the 7 stages of depression, when you're going through that sadness, it doesn't rain forever. The darkest before the dawn. There are many quotes that I could say, and those who stare long enough into the abyss will stare back at you. Friedrich Nietzsche. There's a lot of beautiful sayings that can help you overcome those things, but you have to be, you can always bring the horse to the water, but you cannot make it drink. So it must come from within you to be able to want that change in your own life. And it's okay if it may not be now, but when you do get to that point, even skaters like myself or surfers, you know, when you're surfing a 50-foot wave, there's a level of respect that comes with that, and realizing that you're in a zone that there's something entirely bigger than you out there, and it humbles you. And sometimes addiction can humble us, and it makes us realize that we're not invincible and that we are human. And when you're able to open up and not always try to bottle those emotions, but to feel them as they come, as the expression goes, take me as I am or watch me as I go. Same thing with emotions. Feel them when they come and let them leave when it's time for them to leave. But you can always pull yourself out of a dark place. You could be the light that permeates through the darkness. And it's important to know that you get to live this life, and you have this one life to live, and don't take it for granted. Because there's a lot of beautiful things out there. And sometimes life is already complex enough as it is. When somebody does a substance, you're now giving life an extra step. You're giving it an area of now, you're already here, but now you're in this whole other space. And to understand that space, well, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're not always meant to understand, and that's okay. Sometimes you must learn how to surrender to the flow of the current. My name is Eyez. Shout out to Respect the Vibe. Give thanks. And bless.